I'm Annie.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Lactation Business Coaching with Annie and Leah, where we talk about the smart way to create a compassionate and professional private practice.
Let's dive in. Hey there, Annie.
Hey, Leah. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm really excited today. We have another bonus episode, and this one means a lot to Annie and I because we're podcasters, and we're speaking today with the owner of Podcast Rocket, Robert Scheerbarth. And he's here to talk about how podcasting might make a difference in our journey as lactation consultants. And we're able to put on these episodes because of all the wonderful Patreon support we have had. And that Patreon support's allowing us to expand what we can offer to you guys. And we really just appreciate everyone who's joining us there. And if you're interested to learn more about Patreon and how you can get involved in our community, you can go to patreon.com/lactation business coaching.
It has been so fun to do these bonus episodes, and we are doing them where we're asking people who we think are experts in the field, but not just that, we're also picking people that we just enjoy talking to. And we've had a lot of fun conversations with Rob because he's actually done a lot to help us come up with ideas for this podcast. And in a lot of ways, we're doing this because of one of the ideas that he gave to us. So we're really excited to welcome Rob Scheerbarth. He's the creative director at Podcast Rocket. And just a little bit about Rob, he's always wanted to tell stories, and that's why he got involved in video games, because the idea of being able to tell an interactive story was really appealing to him. I think that's why my kids like video games too. They don't like being locked into anything. Rob also writes on his own time, mainly novels and screenplays. And his second passion is to help people. He really likes the connection that happens between passionate individuals and trying to obtain a common goal, which makes a ton of sense to me. I'm a storyteller too. And I'm like, there's not that much difference between telling a story and working with people, because that's also a form of storytelling too. You're creating something together. So Rob first was attempting to create his own video game company, but then realized that the biggest challenges these brands and businesses were facing came down to awareness and marketing. And that's the storyteller. Again, what kind of story do you want to tell? So he and his wife ended up as the owners of Podcast Rocket, and they're helping brands tell their stories and reach out to their audience. They are working remotely, and this year they're in Madrid, Spain, and they're stuck indoors due to COVID-19, but they're planning to move next year to a different city. So we are international today. Thank you so much, Rob. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So tell me, Rob, how does the podcast fit into like an overall marketing or revenue strategy for a business like Lactation Consultants, where we're more service oriented, a one-on-one service we're giving people? Is there a way Lactation Consultants could fit podcasting in as revenue or as promoting their business?
That is a great question. So I guess I'm gonna tell a bit of how we ended up on this, and then I'll address the question, because this we need to unpack this whole thing. So when we tried to do marketing for our own video game business, we realized that marketing is the stories of ourselves. You have a story, I have a story, and marketing is essentially getting that story out there for people to connect with you. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product or a service, anything. These are the new marketing trends. It wasn't always like this. At the start of the 20th century, companies shifted their focus from having better products or better services to having better brands or public image, if you will. So that's why nowadays you don't see Nike promoting their shoes in their ads anymore. Like, instead of that, you see this kind of narrative presented to you. It was back in the 60s and 70s that you would get ads about how their shoes were better than the competition. Nowadays, it's all about the story. It's about how they make you feel. They don't try to sell you on the shoes. They sell you on the enhancing people's lives through sports and fitness message.
Totally.
The story they present is their marketing. So with that in mind and discovering that, we asked ourselves, how can we help other brands and businesses grow? And, well, enter podcasting. So podcasting is a top of the funnel marketing effort, but in plain English, it just means awareness. It's the first step of a client's journey. A client's journey is all the experiences a customer goes through when interacting with your company and brand. So that can be your website, a podcast, a chat in your website, talking to yourself directly. That's part of the experience. So essentially, podcasting is a way of reaching a lot of potential clients at the very first step. So when we're looking at podcasting and specifically, there are right now 67 million Americans that listen to podcasts every month.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
It's crazy. And I have more stats for you. So 45% of those have an annual income over $75,000, which means it's a good potential market for any business to go into. And shy of 50% of those follow brands on social media. So that means they're engaged customers with brands. So when we were looking at this, we were like very excited. We were, okay, so this is a new thing. So how does this fare with other kinds of marketing strategies? Nowadays, the number one way of connecting with your customers organically are blogs. That's the fate of the internet right now is there. So we looked at that, and there's 125 million blogs available on the internet today. But by comparison, Google claims to have indexed only 2 million podcasts. So what these numbers mean is that if you were going to an interview today and you opened the waiting room to that interview, in one room you would see 125 people for the same job with you. And in the other room, you would see only 2 people. So that's the kind of difference between blogs and podcasts. And also there is an additional point to consider, and is that the barrier for podcasting is lower than blogs. You don't need to set up a website. You don't need to know grammar. You don't need to do anything. Just hit record and that's it. So when looking at how podcasts fit in an overall marketing and revenue strategy, the main point to consider is that podcasting is part of the marketing efforts that your business or brand is trying to do. And the way that you have to present it is by telling your story and just being real and authentic, like you guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
That's
really
so
neat.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about that, like comparing the statistics in that way. And it's funny to think about the barrier being lower for a blog versus a podcast. But yeah, I mean, I think the fact that there is so much clutter, and you're not, when you're writing for a blog, because I have a blog for my paperless lactation website, I'm being very intentional about what kind of content I'm crafting. I can't just sit down and write whatever I want. Unfortunately, it's not, live journal from the late 90s. I have to it's like writing an essay for school, and it's a very different kind of writing. But yeah, when Leah and I get together to talk, it's just so fun, and so I'm hearing, and what you're saying is that it's about marketing, reaching clients, reaching potential customers. So for a lactation consultant who is, focusing on, local services, one-to-one services, and feeling like, I don't know, how do you differentiate yourself? What are some ways that someone like that can figure out what their audience, people who will actually be contracting them for their services, people who will actually be booking a consult with them, how do you find out what they want to listen to? How do you get in their earbuds?
Well, you've hit on a very important point. When we first started and we started reaching out to our own customers, we made the mistake of not targeting the right audience. When you said you were writing about blogs and everything, and you need to research, there is a bit of research in podcasting. You need to make sure that you're targeting the right people. We created an article for audio editors, and it was a big, massive thing. But audio editors are not our public, they're not our customers. So we made that mistake. So I would say that the first thing you need to do is figure out who your customers is. In a lactation business, if it's a one-to-one, you know exactly who they are. That's not a big thing for someone that is talking to clients every day. So the first thing you need to do is know who your audience is. But then you also need to make sure that the topics you pick, and that's very important, as you've already said too, the topics you pick align with your business goals. Otherwise, you'll be talking about all kinds of random topics. And you want to make sure that you keep it consistent. So this is what we normally go through when we do strategy at Podcast Rocket. We try to figure out, 1, who your audience is, and 2, what your business goals are. And then we just create topics around those. But at the end of the day, let's not forget that you or whoever is listening to this, you or your sales team interact with your clients daily. So if you're trying to figure out, what they want to hear about, what topics they want to invest time and effort into learning more about, is asking yourself, what do my clients ask me? What are they most concerned about? These are great topics to start with. Like, if you're going to record a topic like a podcast now today or next week or whatever, just make sure that you keep one topic per episode, and you want to make sure that you record at least 3 episodes at least before you hit the publish button. That way, it normally gives you like a buffer to record the 4th one while you figure out how to edit, publish, etc. But it also gives you that ability of publishing one and then try to interact with your community. Because if you ask simple questions to drive engagement, like, what did you think of this topic? Reach out on our website. Or do you have any comments? Leave them or on our Facebook page. Sometimes you get ideas from their comments and conversations. So I would start first with the clients, and then I would try to interact with your listeners. And there are great ways of actually understanding what they want to hear.
So I have a follow-up question about that. I think that's really great. And I think what I'm hearing is that it's not about thinking about, okay, what should a breastfeeding podcast be about? Or saying like, because then you're going to end up sounding like a textbook. But, I'm hearing maybe there's potential to even go a little local with your podcast. Maybe your topic is not breastfeeding for everyone. Maybe your topic is about being a parent in this county or in this town or in this neighborhood. And, maybe bringing in local experts and kind of playing that up, because, you're not trying to get everyone in the world to be your client. You want exactly who you want.
That is exactly correct. I think that ties into what I was saying before. What you want to do is you want to tell your story. You want to be authentic. You don't have to come across as the expert. You can bring in experts. You can do it locally. You just have to put yourself in the shoes of these families and parents. And it also ties into, as you said, with what I said before, that you want to make sure that you're getting this feeling from the people, but also you're not comparing the shoes, right, from Nike. You're not trying to say, oh, I'm the best. It's more about, okay, how can I connect with my customers in a real way? And sometimes that story is not, I'm a lactation breastfeeding consultant, is I want to make sure that families in my community are the best that they can be. So yeah, definitely.
Well, that just really gave me goosebumps. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, wow, that's like exactly what we all want, That's awesome. So I know for a lot of lactation consultants, they probably don't even have podcasting on their radar as something that they could offer. And it might seem like, oh my gosh, that's so intimidating and totally not for me. But if you were talking to somebody who is starting out and thinking, well, maybe I would want to do this, like, what's the level of do-it-yourselfness, or what's the level of like, you're going to have to get support for this? What would you tell someone who's starting out? Maybe they want to do just something local. They really want to target their area. What would you tell them?
Okay, so the question is it possible to DIY your podcast? And the answer is absolutely. Like, it all comes down to, and we all know this because we all have businesses, it all comes down to time versus money, unfortunately. So I think podcasting, you have to treat it as a marketing tool. So right now, if you're stuck inside due to COVID with extra time and no marketing budget, then yes, go ahead, learn how to record, edit, publish, and the whole shebang. But if on the other hand, you do have a marketing budget and very little time, like most of us do, then maybe it's just better to just record and then pass all that grinding work to an agency. We have clients on both sides. We had clients that reached out to us and didn't have a budget, and we just gave them resources. Like, we're always trying to help in any way we can. And on the flip side, we had a client a couple of weeks ago that came in and said, I can't edit my podcast anymore, Rob. It's soul crushing. So, it just depends on what you want to do. I think it all comes down to marketing plans and marketing budget. And we can always help launch a podcast, but you can also start recording and finding your flow and just contacting us if you're having issues or you want to outsource the most boring parts or you need help with anything.
I think Leah and I knew right from the beginning that we were never going to learn how to edit our own podcasts. And that has been 100% the right decision.
Yes. I think I've only messed with it one or two times because I don't know, we've had something happen and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I try to look at it for a second and my eyes just go blank. I'm like, what am I even doing right now? It's so tedious. So yay to all the audio editors out there. That kind of tedious work is not in my wheelhouse. That is not me. And I'm so thankful for you.
And I feel like we can tell the difference of just how it sounds. I know there are things that happen that I would never learn how to do, or even if I could read about them, I wouldn't do it right. And so having that extra, just outsourcing that has been, I feel made a difference and help us feel more relaxed about when we do get on to talk together. We're we can just be ourselves and chat knowing that somebody smarter than us about these things is going to make us sound good.
Yes, for sure. I rely heavily on the fact that we can edit out anything that I totally flub on.
Well, we have loved hearing about podcasting. And if you guys are going to make podcasts, we 100% want to listen to them. So you could definitely start sharing ideas in our Patreon group. That's patreon.com/Lactation Business Coaching. And if you want to learn more about what Rob and the team at Podcast Rocket are doing to empower brands and businesses to reach their audience, you can talk to them. Go to their website, podcastrocket.net, and check out what they have to offer. We can personally vouch for their podcast strategy because they just have a way of asking questions that when we did our session, we were able to think so deeply about what we're trying to do here with Lactation Business Coaching. And we just left it feeling really excited about all of the opportunities we have to create community from lactation consultants who may never be in the same room together. And that's really what we've always wanted for this podcast. And so it was nice to have somebody outside giving us some additional perspective and ideas. So anything that you see us do that you like, we're really going to thank this podcast strategy for that.
Yes.
And
Rob for guiding us and helping us figure it all out. It really was so awesome. We thank you so much.
Oh my God, I'm blushing so hard right now. Thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, we're here to help anybody. Even if you don't have the budget, shoot us a line. We'll send you some resources.
Awesome.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's great once again to get to chat. And don't forget to check out our Patreon group and join us there for our deeper dives and more discussion.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
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 Want to continue the conversation? Join our community and connect with other private practice lactation consultants just like you. We offer support and exclusive member-only content designed to help you create a compassionate and professional private practice. We're all in this together at patreon.com/Lactation Business Coaching. And if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review and share it with a friend. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.